started the pioneered investment migration. At that time, this was like a slow, small back road. Today, it's a 6-lane highway, and there's a lot happening all around the world, which we're still doing. Also, generally, wealthy people are more and more moving. We have maybe spoken to our wealth migration report just came out a few days ago. And we have this year probably around 120,000 wealthy people, millionaires, that will move to another country. Next year, about 130,000. And we are in the midst of this. So there's a very interesting series of topics this afternoon, and with this I would like to hand over to our amazing host, moderator today, Haziran. Please, Haziran, come on stage. Thank you very much.
So hello, wealthy people, should I say so? Well, dear distinguished guests, welcome to Henley&Partners Turkey Wealth Preservation Seminar. Henley&Partners created the concept of residence and citizenship planning in the 1990s, so the programs have existed for decades. In 2006, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis contracted the firm to enhance and market its struggling citizenship by investment program. This proved to be a tipping point, and the result of this fruitful collaboration was the realization of the Twin Island nation's economy through the creation of one of the most successful citizenship by investment programs in history. Today, most developed countries offer some form of investment migration program, and the number of programs is rising as more nations realize their value in the escalating competition for capital, talent, and wealth. The programs, as we know them today, are mainstream wealth management tools for individuals and alternative revenue streams for sovereign states. Contrary to what many believe, residence and citizenship programs are not the exclusive domain of struggling nations. 19 of the group, 20 nations, have mechanisms to attract inward investment in exchange for residence rights. 60% of EU member states host investment migration programs. Highly developed nations design and implement investment migration programs for the same reason small and developing nations do, to attract foreign capital, skills, and knowledge to stimulate their domestic economies. Henley&Partners Turkey office was re-established 2 years ago to provide service to people who are based in Turkey. Some of you are already a client of Henley&Partners, and some of you will be becoming a partner of the family after this event. Today we would like to welcome the Prime Minister of Grenada via video call and have some special guest speakers from all over the world, like Montenegro Investment Agency and Ras Al Khaimah Free Zone from UAE. We are going to inform you about the alternative wealth planning tools and investment trends globally. Thank you and welcome. Now, we are going to have His Excellency Prime Minister Victor Mitchell live to make a welcome speech. Afterward, I will be moderating this event. So,
thank you.
hello.
Can you hear me clearly?
Hello, Prime Minister from Korea.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. We are very sorry for the wait. So.
Thank you very much for having me. Let me greet your distinguished guests. It's an honor to address you today, albeit virtually. This week marks the anniversary of my administration's still stay in office, and as such, regrettably, I am unable to be with you in person. However, I wish to express my deepest gratitude to our esteemed hosts, Dr. Christian Kaelin and Mr. Muriel, and the Henley&Partners team for this kind invitation and planning of this event. I'm going to say a little bit about Grenada. It's truly special for me as the Prime Minister of Grenada to share the vision and immense potential that our island nation holds for those seeking to become a part of our global family. As Grenadians have a rich history of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds, claim our identity and freedom. And though we are a small nation, and I think prior to Dr. Kim coming on, Ram and I telling you a little bit about Grenada, we are certainly well into the country above our waist, and many Grenadians have been able to achieve greatness in various fields, commanding both private, national, and international. And personally, I always give an example of our homegrown artist, Haziran James, who only at 18 years old won in 2012 in the 400 meters. When he did so, he made Grenada, in fact, the country with the highest Olympic gold medals per capita. And Grenada has held on to that title for many years. And Haziran has gone on to win silver and bronze gold medals at the following Olympics. As Grenadians, many of you who may in fact be in the room today make up part of the proud diaspora community, and we look forward to including you in our successes as part of our collective history of excellence. As a new government, my administration will bring the embraces a balanced and integrated approach to sustainable development, consistent with the transformational goals proposed by our National Sustainable Development Plan 2025, and ultimately the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And I quote, a resilient and prosperous nation, the conscious and caring citizenry, promoting human dignity, and realizing its full potential for sustainable economic, social, and environmental progress for all. My government has identified priority areas, including the education and health sectors, agriculture and marine industry, physical and digital infrastructure, the creative economy, and renewable energy, as we seek to combat poverty, empower people, and foster a sense of pride in our heritage and natural resources. The CBI program has played a key role in Grenada's development in this industry. Our CBI program serves as a financing mechanism to bolster the government's fiscal position, the advancement of transformational projects and programs, and to channel financial investments to approved private projects in some of the priority sectors that I've highlighted above. Our varying options were created with a view to ensure targeted utilization of financial resources and broad-based socio-economic development. To date, total receipts from our CBI program over the period 2016 to 2022 average 3.5% of Grenada's gross domestic product annually, and the program has created job opportunities for over 2,400 Grenadian citizens. And we should place that in a context where Grenada's total population is just about 110,000 persons, and its working population is just about 40,000. For many countries the world over, investment migration is a form of residency by investment or citizenship by investment. It's an integral part of the economic and fiscal architecture. The importance of these programs varies from country to country. Some consider that investment migration is a significant vehicle for capital flows, especially tourism and real estate, and central government revenues. Additionally, and of note, particularly in cases like Grenada, the program serves as an economic buffer, especially during external shocks such as hurricanes or other natural disasters and health emergencies such as the COVID-19 pandemic. In many aspects of the global economy came to a virtual halt during the pandemic, the CBI program not only continued but thrived. Revenues earned during this period were critical in supporting our government's ability to meet increased public sanitation expenses and the provision of much needed aid to citizens, especially in the tourism industry, whose livelihoods were negatively impacted by the pandemic. Since 2021, CBI receipts reached an all-time high of 4.6% of GDP, which is indicative of the growing popularity of the latest program. There has been an 89% increase in revenue earned by the government of Grenada from citizenship by investment the first 3 months of 2023 compared to the same period in 2022. And in terms of absolute numbers, for the first 3 months of 2023, the program earned $56.7 million compared to $30 million for the first 3 months of 2022. Flows earmarked for the National Transformation Fund for the same period moved from $15.3 million in the first 3 months of 2022 to $16.5 million for the same period in 2023. Additionally, the approved applications for private sector projects will potentially generate $20.9 million in investment projects for the same period, January to March of 2023, compared to $11.3 million for the comparative period in 2022. The ongoing success of the CBI program continues to support Grenada's sustainable development and the attainment of government's transformational goals. The reach of this program permeates all sectors, with a high impact on social development and housing projects and infrastructure development initiatives. And so, by example, while the preferred option for investment in Grenada is in the form of a contribution to the National Transformation Fund, and on average, the National Transformation Fund accounts for 69% of total receipts from the CBI program. This revenue base is critical for financing capital projects and programs implemented by the government of Grenada. Over the period 2016 to 2022, 65% of all capital projects and programs for Ministry of Social Development and Housing were directly financed by the National Transformation Fund. And these include important initiatives such as upkeep and maintenance of our juvenile rehabilitation centers, or treatment centers, or home improvement program, and our child sexual and sexual abuse protection services. Infrastructure development projects account for the large deployment of our National Transformation Fund resources across sectors, with approximately 66% of infrastructure development activities financed by the National Transformation Fund. And we have done a significant infrastructure projects, including coastal protection projects in the north of our island, providing public markets for fisher folks and butchers. Road improvement and maintenance programs are all financed through this fund. The MTF resources have proven to be critically important to improvements capitalized in our priority areas such as healthcare, education, and the agricultural sector. So why invest in Grenada's citizenship by investment program? Most individuals who apply for citizenship under CBI programs are interested in the ease of travel for themselves and their families. However, as we've seen, increasing geopolitical tensions in recent years have also increased the interest in CBI programs for the sense of security that the second citizenship in a conflict-free, peaceful country provides. Grenada's CBI program is ideal in both respects, providing an ideal location to enjoy quality family time in a safe environment with flexibility of investment options, incentives for investors, and minimal processing fees. A Grenada passport also provides investors with access to over 140 countries with a visa-free or visa-on-arrival tours. These include the United Kingdom and all of the members of the European Union, and important business hubs such as Singapore and Hong Kong. It is worth mentioning that Grenada is only one of the 11 nations globally whose citizens can travel visa-free to the People's Republic of China. To further streamline and expedite our approval process and mindful that it is not simply possible for many applicants to reside in Grenada as part of the citizenship application process. We have removed all residency requirements before or after citizenship is granted, and waived the requirement for education and management experience. Moreover, Grenada does not tax foreign wealth, gift, inheritance, or capital gains, and there are no restrictions on the repatriation of profits and imported capital. Grenada also offers generous incentive packages, including corporate tax incentives, full exemptions from import and customs duties, tax relief benefits, and export allowances. Grenada is pro-business and provides a perfect setting to create a safe haven for investors and their families in a local community that is culturally vibrant and extremely friendly. Individuals who obtain citizenship through Grenada's citizenship by investment program are allowed to dual citizenship, and citizenship may be extended to family members such as a spouse, dependent children, and dependent parents. Children and young adults may obtain full access and, in some cases, even educational grants, top schools, and universities. Furthermore, Grenada offers its citizens social and political security, reinforced by its membership in the United Nations and the Commonwealth of Nations, and individuals who obtain citizenship through Grenada's CBI program are entitled to the same rights as any other Canadian citizen. Additionally, my government is committed to the inclusion of all Canadian citizens in the process of national development, regardless of the mode that citizenship was attained. So Canadians who have become citizens through the Citizenship by Investment program are now amount to approximately 3,000 individuals, which is about 3% of our current population. As we seek to adopt a more holistic and sustainable approach to the CBI, we intend to move away from the transactional nature of the process and encourage increased input and expertise from those of you who are part of the Canadian diaspora community. And therefore, I'm happy to engage in this morning's presentation so that we may encourage our diaspora to play a more meaningful and significant role in the continued development of Grenada. For my government's part, we will continue to strengthen our CBI program, ensuring that we prudently grow our market share through purposefully and systematically improving the efficiencies in our service delivery, with the use of improved technology, targeted marketing, highly trained professional staff, and being robust in our due diligence, compliance, and risk management. Our program is unbiased, and it applies the same treatment and due diligence process to all applicants, regardless of the country of origin. As many of you may know, for an extended period after the start of the war in Ukraine, we were the only Caribbean nation processing Russian and Belarusian applicants for our CBI program. However, we are mindful of the headwinds for the investment migration sector, and our government is therefore fully committed to working with all stakeholders to adapt and to develop the necessary standards, regulations, and internal control systems to reduce the risk profile of the sector and to mitigate existing risks on an ongoing basis. We therefore continue to work with the Joint Regional Communication Center of the GRCC, intergovernmental organizations such as the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, and our own organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, in addition to our partners in the United States and the European Union, to electronically verify the accuracy of what is stated at all investor applications. We see this exercise as particularly important in assisting all sectors to have a thorough understanding of the design and operations of our program, and consequently, a prerequisite in us working together to lower the risk profile of our program through mutually agreed improvements and reforms. Finally, we will continue to convene national stakeholders on an annual basis to facilitate open dialogue and collaborative work towards development and maintenance of a robust and highly sustainable investment migration sector for the Grenadian economy. In concluding, Grenada's citizenship by investment program is an integral part of my administration's development model, offering investors a secure and profitable investment opportunities in the Caribbean. The benefits of it have an authentic second home and the opportunity to participate actively in nation building. Through your investment, you are creating a more flexible lifestyle for yourself and your family while contributing to Grenada's sustainable development, supporting improvement in critical areas such as healthcare, social development, infrastructure, and any other areas that you may be passionate about. In addition to the wide range of benefits, including citizenship, a second passport, attractive investment options, and access to a stable and growing economy, Grenada offers a safe and welcoming society, a rich cultural background, and amazing natural resources to discover and to fall in love with. I invite you to embrace the full experience of being a citizen of Grenada. Make your mark as a valued member of our community and join the legacy of greatness. Thank you, and I certainly wish you a productive and enjoyable.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, yes, now we are continuing. So, as you see, what direct investment, can we ask our guests on the stage, please? So, dear Goran Strahinja, Managing Director of the Montenegro Investment Agency, Taner Kokcu, Strategic Partnership Director of Rafi's UAE, and Dr. Chris Henley. You can come here. Yeah, please. No, you don't have to. So, hello, everybody. I hope everybody is okay. So, let's start with the first question. What is the importance of investment migration programs in terms of FDI? Let's start with Chris. The top guy first.
Yeah, so now comes these things with professionally. So, you know, foreign direct investment is something that every government wants. Every country wants more investment. I mean, maybe not most of I'm sure, but most countries. And what we do, and what these investment migration programs do, is we open new avenue of investment growth. And it's actually very significant. It has become very significant in recent times. In smaller countries, like the first from the Prime Minister of Grenada, it has become very significant. I mean, in the Eastern Caribbean, and we're very proud of this, we pioneered this in kids 2006, 2007, and then now, except one, all the Eastern Caribbean countries have such programs. In some cases, it's up to 25% of the GDP. That's really significant. Of course, it also creates dependencies, and it's a small country with a lot of influx, but it's a bit like oil. So if you manage it well, then it can be very, very good and sustainable. If you don't manage it well, of course, it cannot go the right direction. But it has become very significant, and it, I think, continues to grow quite significantly in the next years.
Is it only declining, or, for example, when people try to change their citizenship or invest on citizenship, is it mostly about the money flow or climate change? What do you see in the recent years mostly when you look at the general behavior of people who want to change their citizenship?
But you know, the interesting thing about programs is that actually you have on one hand people who see alternative residence or citizenship, and they're willing to invest for that. On the other hand, there are countries that need for foreign direct investment, and these are not just small peripheral countries, sometimes they're actually quite large countries, and regions that need investment or underinvested. And So we match these two, actually. And that creates a very good synergy. On one hand, we help people, on the other hand, countries. So if the money flow better, they wouldn't flow otherwise. It doesn't got anything to do with climate change, it has to do with that people are interested in specific access rights, statuses that countries offer, and for that they're willing to invest, and countries are willing to open their borders, societies, which creates really almost only positives. Sometimes the real estate market is overheated, but otherwise there isn't really anything negative.
I see. Thank you. So, Mr. Coach, the same question. What is the importance of investment migration programs in terms of the API?
Thank you very much, Lisa. And I would like to say hello to everyone. I'm pleased to be here today. Thank you very
We are
much.
happy to. Normally, we are mostly making conversations over Zoom. Now he's alive, so I understood that he's not healthy. So we are very happy.
And it's great to be here in Istanbul. I'm from Turkey, so it's really a privilege. I'm pleased to be part of the event. Thank you very much for putting this up together. It's fantastic. Let me give you a quick brief who we are, what we do, and then I'll touch base with the FDI part, and then how we drive investment, foreign investment to the UAE, particularly to Ras Al Khaimah. Ras Al Khaimah is one of the 7 Emirates of United Arab Emirates. For those of, I don't know, has anyone been to Ras Al Khaimah or UAE? Can I see the hand? Okay, alright. So, cool. Potentially, exactly. So, Ras Al Khaimah almost has 400,000 population, and it has been a dynamic emirate, attracts foreign investment as well as talent from all over the world. I mean, when you look at the population of UAE, 90% of the UAE population are expatriates, like myself, for instance. I've been living in UAE for the last 20 years, and I spent time in economic zones and free zones. So I've been interacting with FDI most of the time. It's been a safe and stable environment. The economic zone I work currently hosts 18,000 companies, which makes us one of the largest economic zone in the UAE. And it covers different kind of industries, so we can speak more about it later on during the panel. But what I would like to say is, when we attract these foreign investment, and when companies establish investment came over, they create a lot of job opportunities, which drives the talent as well to relocate to UAE, to Ras Al Khaimah. And not only the talent, but of course it also brings the investment as well as adding value, bringing know-how, companies from all over the world coming and being part of the community, being part of the economy, and also the contribution that FDI creates is massive. And when it comes to migration plan, our migration plan is slightly different, which I would say the UAE government recently introduced golden and green visas for long-term visas, like 5 years or 10 years visas for investors who are relocating to UAE. So this also has started kind of attracting a lot of new talent, people relocating. So that's kind of like a quick brief that I can mention at the moment.
Thank you. So, Australia, a beautiful country that we love too much. So, the same question to you as well. What is the importance of investment migration programs in terms of FDI?
Hello everyone.
How do you say hello in your language?
Zdravo.
Zdravo.
This is a great pleasure today to speak with you, and I would like to say thanks to Mr. Christian to invite us to participate on this. Can say Congress, also not seminar, actually. Also, I would like to especially
Promotion video there.
I asked the guys to bring us some images from Montenegro.
Do we have to watch this?
Yes, it is.
This is Montenegro.
This is the Montenegro.
surprise.
Thank you very much. All Japanese process, the picture says 1,000 words. So this is statement is very different from
Thanks for your statement.
Thank you very much. Montenegro developed this program of CIP starting in 2012, almost we can say. Now we have finished this program. In this program, I would like to especially praise the cooperation with we have with the Henley&Partners office in Montenegro, which was crucial importance for the successful implementation of the economic citizenship project in Montenegro. The implementation of this citizenship investment program, which was launched in the government of Montenegro as a part of the ongoing efforts to attract foreign direct investments and increase the economic activity in the country, was spotted very quickly. The effect of the program was visible in every earlier phases. Today we can talk about over €500 million invested during this program, and it had more than 1,100 applications. These numbers are very huge for the small country as Montenegro is. Henley&Partners played a significant role in promoting this program and expressed satisfaction that through the commitments and application, Montenegro had opportunity to realize many valuable investors from different economic sides. Talking these investors in Montenegro through the CIP could potentially trigger further investments from the application of the program. Point of the CIP has attracted investors to the northern part of Montenegro, especially with the ski resort Polašin, which has a positive effect on overall development of the northern part of Montenegro and the expansion of the tourism season in Montenegro through the development of the winter tourism offer. I have to inform you that development of the tourism in the ski center resort Polašin, and with the new hotels being built 4 and 5 stars category, a lot of renewed world cooperation decide to came on Montenegro. For now we have a Swissotel Pullman, Kaiser International is also confirmed they are present until now. Finally, I would like to emphasize that the CIP program brought great benefits to our country. First of all, because it was the focus on the 2 categories. Firstly, development of the less developed north region of the country, and secondly, the diversification of the tourism offer of Montenegro. This model program has been very received by applications. However, this program gets great benefits to our country, and we believe what is happening in the future.
I will ask afterwards. So, Hvala is thank you, right?
Yes, yes.
Hvala. So, Dr. Kevin, can I ask you the priorities of the foreign investors according to your firm's experience? What are your Henley&Partners priorities when you are making that
By Vietnamese governments.
Yes.
So depends a lot on country. So if you look at Montenegro, we just looked at, it's actually an interesting case because Montenegro is a relatively small country. It's in Europe. It's quite different than say Grenada, where it was program. But one of the big differences is Montenegro is of course on the path to the EU. So the EU keeps telling them all sorts of things what to do and not to do, which is pain, frankly, because some of the things are, of course, very welcome, and some of the things are very difficult. So, for instance, in the context of such a program, the EU doesn't like that. So we have to manage it. There's no real reason. It's just ideological, but when you're leaving ideologues, it's difficult to talk. Ideologues don't. So we need to navigate sometimes such third reason, our priority is essentially very simple. It is to help a country as best possible in the circumstances. That depends a lot on which region you look at. So there isn't one answer. There depends a lot. In Montenegro, the main thing was to get this off the ground despite the pressure from the EU. We were successful until last year, and now we'll see that the renewed program coming, and we don't give up. So let's make our main priority, we don't give up.
Thank you. So, Mr. Topçu, could you also explain the benefits of UAE for the foreign investor experiences
Sure.
in the area?
Yeah, there's not only one. There are many indicators that potential investors look for when they relocate or when they start business in the UAE. UAE is a kind of market which is stable, a vibrant, diverse economy, of course. We're talking about 200 different nationalities living in the UAE. The population is going over 10 million as we speak, and has been seeing an enormous development over the last 20 years. So the investors, they look at cost-effective solutions, of course, customized products or facilities or infrastructure, depending on the type of the business. So we do capture business from SMEs to mid-size and also large industrial clients, particularly in Ras Al Khaimah. And there has been a lot of production happening in the Emirate. So they look at low-cost marine operations, they look at easy access, which is also available through port, through the airport or land. And it has become kind of like a vibrant environment where cost effectiveness is a benefit, as well as access to decision makers is important. So, you know, the government supports such initiatives and such investments. So when investors they decide to come, they are able to interact and engage with the decision makers, which makes their life kind of much easier. And setup costs, of course, we mentioned about stable economy and a few other logistical incentives that they look at. If I make you a couple of examples, it's a kind of emirate where the world's fourth largest ceramic provider, rock ceramics, for example, is in Ras Al Khaimah. There's a pharmaceutical company called Jufar who provides producers. One of the leading producer for insulin and it's done in Ras Al Khaimah. So this all kind of like giving the benefit as well as the confidence for investors to come and establish in the Emirate itself. We proud to speak these days about attracting a lot of foreign investment, and one of the recent developments is an integrated resort. I have to mention this. Today, it's going to be the first of its kind in the region, in the Gulf region. That is a resort coming from Las Vegas, opening an integrated resort where the gaming is kind of like coming up, which itself, it was already started attracting a lot of different industries, a lot of different investors to come and support this initiative.
Huge impact.
Huge impact, yeah.
Thank you. So, without the video, Mr. Slayan. So, the benefits of Montenegro for foreign investors, any sentences?
Except video.
Except video.
Is it not young enough, I think. So, Montenegro is a small country. It is going to be a part of the European Union, and we expected that it happened very fast, very soon. So one of the ideas is that the investors come to Montenegro to invest their money in the UAE, as said, very fast future. Also, in Montenegro, we have the euro as a currency, which is very, very good for this situation of inflation in the world. Montenegro is also an alliance partner, full partner, so the secure of the investments in Montenegro is on the high level. After that, we can say that Montenegro is a very friend country with Turkey, the Republic of Turkey. We have very great connections together, even good culture or means that many people from our region are going to work and live in Turkey, and we are very connected.
Even I've been there 3 times.
Yes.
In 1 year. So, I will follow you with the next question. How do you see the demand from Turkey? Why would Turkish investors invest in Montenegro? Give us the reason.
It's a tough question. It's complicated. It's complicated.
It's very simple because until recently we get shipping on
I'm interested, I asked you. So,
now it's more difficult, but it's still very attractive. I think there's a lot of incentives and it's a beautiful country and I hope it's sold on all fronts.
Montenegro is catching a good taxation also.
okay, Mr. Topçu, after the big effect, how do you see the demand from Turkey?
Well, UAE and Turkey has a long history. When you look at it in terms of investment, in terms of relationship, and on top of the historical relations, we recently had a SIPA agreement signed between UAE and Turkey. This agreement is expected to kind of have around $40 billion trade between UAE and Turkey. So we are expecting a lot of movements happening around this, which we already seen in fact. Currently, we have over 300 companies registered with our economic zone. But when you look at the overall population of Turkish nationals in UAE, it's nowadays around 36,000, which 20 years ago it was only 600. So we have seen that huge jump, and it is already kind of happening. And based on these agreements signed, it's either SIPA or FTA agreements between the two governments. There's a lot of interaction. Already tourism is one of the industry, food and beverage industry is there, which Turkey and UAE is in relation with. So the way I see it is going to be more and more. It's going to increase. We feel it, we see it, and we're expecting more interaction between the two. And it's always beneficial for both parties to share the know-how and have the understanding.
Thank you. And Dr. Chris, I want to ask the last question to you. What are the trends for FDI inflow and outflow for Turkey? And how can Turkey attract the FDI market?
Yeah, but what we see is that the only ones serving that Turkey has gone through a difficult time with various aspects of its economy and economic management. And we of course look at the very specific aspect of inflows and outflows through wealthy people. And very happy to say also we bring a lot of investments to Turkey through its own citizenship by investment program. So as you may know, Turkey has the option also to obtain citizenship through investment. And we're actually in the process of helping further to improve this program here. And we actually think it has a great future. So the very specific area that we can comment on, because I wouldn't dare to comment on the bigger picture economically, there's many other aspects, but that can actually have, even in a large economy, a large country like Turkey, it can actually have a good impact. I also tell you why in a moment, because that goes back to your previous question about strategy overall for countries. I would expect Turkey to bring in much more money going forward through these programs, because I think it hasn't been optimally managed so far. Straightforward, but it can be done much better and bring in even much more funds. It has been successful in that sense. It has brought in many billions of foreign direct investment, much needed foreign direct investment. But why it is interesting for a large country, because even if it's several billion, it's still not that much if you look at the bigger picture of the economy. But if you look at a large country, You don't need more investments in Istanbul, yeah? But you have regions like every country. So we're currently looking at Italy, for instance. We just last week again in Rome and talked to many different people in government. And Italy has the classic problem of the relative underdevelopment southern region and the economic concentration in the north. Every country has that. The same you will have here. You have regions in Turkey that are underpopulated, have economic needs for development, and you can channel through these programs, you can actually channel investments to those regions or to particular sectors. This is not currently done here, but I think it can be done. And then the impact of the foreign investment flows into particular geographic areas or into particular sectors. For instance, venture capital investments could be one that would benefit from that. But that's for the government to set in its policy what to do. And currently here, it's just generally investment in property or some other thing that it just doesn't make more sense because people invest in oturum in Istanbul anyway. And so this, I think, needs to change so that it can be much more meaningful.
He's smiling. So, thank you very much. After this panel, we have a small coffee break. Now, what is it? Yes. And after the coffee break, we will have global wealth preservation and structuring. So, I would like to thank you, Goran Stranidia, Managing Director of the Montenegro Investment Agency, Dr. Christian Kellen, Group Chairman of Henley&Partners, and Taner Topçu, Strategic Partnership Director of Raquel UAE. Thank you, and let's have a small coffee break. The economy and politics are similar. So, now we have Dr. Kelly to make his welcome speech. Please.
Thank you. Yeah, for something like 20 years I do these kind of events, and we are very honored to have all kinds of politicians at our events. Prime Minister, so the last time we had actually Prime Minister of Malta, Albania, Montenegro at our event in London before COVID. That's all great, but they all talk too long. It's really annoying, and even though we tell them, the politicians just keep talking. So the good thing is it is up front, so the rest of the seminar will be cool, quick, and interesting. So now I'm supposed to talk about global outlook and talk about not Grenada, but maybe Montenegro, Switzerland, and so on. But I think we're going to hear enough about these things for the rest of the afternoon. So let me just say a few other things that I think are important. Normally it takes me about 3 weeks to prepare a really good spontaneous speech. And today I was thinking about that, I had to change my mind again. And I think it's very interesting, what if we are all really blunt? So rather than always be trying to be polite, it's all very nice, but actually in the end it doesn't really help anyone. I prefer if we were to be straightforward and say what we think. I think in family, in business, in many situations it's actually better. So let me be rather straightforward with you. So what's on my mind today is actually the migration issues we have as a whole. And maybe some of you know we're also quite involved on the humanitarian side of migration, with refugees, displaced people. And if you look at this, today we actually have a very interesting situation worldwide. We just passed the 100 million mark of registered refugees worldwide, and there's probably multiple of that. And I don't know if you've seen this, but recently there were a number of studies coming out that estimate that in just a few years we will have between several hundred million to up to 2 billion displaced people. So whatever you think of these studies, some is from the World Bank, some is from other institutions, clearly some of it is maybe difficult to guess and overstated. But clearly and truly we're going to have not just a lot of millionaires moving, but we also have really a serious migration crisis coming. Already we have one today, and today we are in Istanbul. Turkey is a very specific place actually in that regard. It actually carries a large burden with displaced people being hosted here. So it's actually quite a special place. This was on my mind today, so I'm straightforward with you and not to talk about that in a while. And so when we look at that, actually we're going to have to deal with migration a lot more than maybe we want to, and maybe we have that today. Because we will have, from climate change to more political volatility and other things, we're going to have a lot more people that have to move, that cannot stay where they are now, that have to move their homeland. And so this will, without a doubt, create a lot of disruptions. When you look at some of the topics this afternoon that goes about wealth structuring and wealth management, actually, one of the most important things to do is to look at risk and what are the strategic risks we face. In my view, one of the most important things we need to watch is this global growing migration crisis. Unfortunately, I have to say, I wish it was otherwise, but I think this is something we should all keep in mind when we talk about investments, when we talk about movements. We're going to have more of that, and we're going to have more quite difficult situation. Because more people will have to move, and we will see this not just in Europe, but around the world. And this is what we also involved in, actually. As you may know, we set up a foundation years ago that helps displaced people on that foundation. And we have also an interesting project that maybe some of you know about. Besides actually supporting refugees on a daily basis, we have a long-term project which is to build a city, an entire city for refugees. We have announced this a few years ago in Davos, and we're working on that. We're worldwide leading in this specific field now. There are a number of groups working on this, because fundamentally speaking, the problem is that politically, more immigration that is uncoordinated is not, in most cases, not palatable politically, and people don't really have somewhere to go, unlike in the past. In the past, many countries have been very open. The United States is the first and foremost example. The US is basically built by refugees that had to leave other countries for religious persecution, famine, war, etc. And nowadays it's more difficult. You can't just go to New York and start a new life. Borders are closed, it's very difficult to move, it's very restrictive. So what we're saying is we actually need new places where people can go to and find a new home and actually build a future, rather than being in a refugee camp or being in a transitionary situation in other countries or cities. So, because we can't just build another country just like this, we can build other cities with large-scale autonomy, a bit like Hong Kong maybe. If you know the constitutional setup of Hong Kong is very autonomous. If you discard the recent political intervention with free speech and things like that of China, Hong Kong is almost an own country. It has its own border, it has its own immigration system, its own justice system, etc. It's almost like an own country. That's what we would like to do in the future, to actually try to see, can we build another such a city? And with that thought, of course I could go on with that quite a bit, but with that thought I will leave you today and just encourage you all to be a little bit more straightforward in life, because I think that's a lot easier if you actually say what you think. And now I hand back over to Haziran, who will guide us through this afternoon of many other interesting topics. Haziran.
Thank you. So let's start the panel. Now we have David, founder of Music Asset Management. And Zahid Zaryev, Head of Treasury Department, Ibigo. So, nice day, right? Did you like the event?
Thank you very much. Yes, so much.
Okay.
Great place, and also for me, very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be the heart of where Asia and Europe meets.
So let's start the first question with you then. What are, in your view, critical success factors to preserve wealth over generations?
Wealth preservation is a long-term process. It involves various strategies, practices to accomplish that wealth can be secured over generations, I believe. Risks can, over many years, be mitigated, but still earning very satisfactory returns. In my view, there are 7 factors which I recommend taking into account while focusing on wealth preservation over generations. First factor, it's all about diversification. Investments need to be spread across different asset classes, stocks, bonds, private equity, real estate, direct, indirect real estate investments, and other alternative investments. Diversification goes into the individual sectors. We've heard this afternoon of several risks, and when I talk of you, everybody has some concerns. For people here, global diversification is going to be very crucial. Second factor in wealth preservation is risk management. Risk management is a process that analyzes risks involved in individual assets and financial instruments. But equally important is to understand everybody's own risk appetite and risk tolerance. Many people would carry large risks, but they don't tolerate. Cannot stand up in the morning and hearing markets have corrected by 10–15%. When I look back the last 20–30 years, there have been many opportunities where people have lost significant values and assets, and only to miss the escalator on the correction upwards by a few weeks or months. You look at the S&P 500, in the last 10 years, there were so many opportunities to lose significant wealth. And that goes basically in the third factor, that is the long-term perspective. We have all much longer investment horizons than what we believe. We can stand the melting down in markets by waiting a couple of years, provided strategy does not put us with a back to the wall. We have highly leveraged, margin call at 4 o'clock in the evening, the liquidity bottleneck, as Murphy's Law often then happens. Fourth important factor to contribute towards wealth preservation is monitoring and review. Family office should have, as one of the 3 strong pillars, strong reporting governance. Clarity over the assets, in-depth analysis of what contributes to success, understanding also the risk factors that are associated with every individual investment. Fifth factor, tax efficiency. It's very often overlooked. We start to invest globally. There are many traps in global investments, particularly in inheritance tax. This country here has a mild inheritance tax, 10%. Gift tax of 20%, which is perhaps unreasonable, to be higher than inheritance tax. But there are industrial countries which have inheritance taxes 40%, 50%, 50% plus Germany, 50% United States, and it is not recognized through a good wealth structuring and mitigate losses by overlooking tax bracket, particularly in terms of state or inheritance taxes. The sixth factor is estate planning. Estate planning has a long-term goal to ensure that wealth can be handed over at the end of the life to the next gen with the minimum disruption and losses or even litigation among heirs. And finally, using estate plan, obtain seventh factor, good professional advice to associate with all the aspects, the opportunities and the threats wealth preservation takes with you. You use international instruments, proper structuring instruments such as trusts, foundations, special purpose companies to mitigate risks that are otherwise around you if nothing is done. Wealth preservation over generations is a long-term process goal, and for means for every family or family office something completely different as circumstances are different.
Great, thank you. So the same question to you, Mr. Eberle. What is, in your view, critical success factors to preserve wealth over generations? And the same question to you as well.
I think Adrian said almost everything that's possible to say about full detail. But I would start with the number one. What we do for our families our highest priority is diversification. So diversification in terms of geography, diversification in terms of asset class, and diversification in general is the most prominent thing that we work when we are doing preservation of wealth, especially through generations. And obviously, a good advice into different geographies. The world is getting more and more complex, things are getting more and more traceable, so we have to build robust structures that's going to be able to withstand different kind of issues that's going and that you will be facing too. And it's all about considering the possibilities that you're going to run into and to be able to hedge them with efficient structures and have multiple structures in place. Because we don't know what the future is going to bring, we can only anticipate what the possibilities. So I would say diversification in asset class. And I think since the creation of wealth management, there are three pillars of asset classes that need to be diversified. And one needs to be easily accessible, easily cashable assets, so that should be part of your portfolio. If you need to have some kind of speculative assets in your portfolio that you need to carry, and then the last is some long-term assets that you can really preserve, protect your wealth. So if you can build a very diverse portfolio with some diverse asset classes that are covering all these three topics, that's how we do it. How we think is the best method to go forward.
Thank you. And Mr. Zaya?
Thank you very much. It's a bit complicated to fill this with not the last one.
The next question was starting from you.
So, let's start with the other point of view. So, private wealth preservation goes beyond more than financial assets. So, the first aspect of my point of view situation is understanding and the relationship between the family, the owner, and the team management. It's crucial to establish strong cooperation between all these three entities, owner, family members, and management team. Because all of these entities must understand that they are a strictly connection and they must work all together harmoniously. It's also essential for the second part is education of family members for young generations. As family owners, they must invest in the development of their successes. Equipping them with all necessary knowledge, plus performance, experience, and skills to be able to their next generation to be able to manage their businesses. It's also very essential that it must be created full fair governance and clear guidelines in order to check the best qualified family members that ensures that family offices that the business will be ruled and managed by the most best qualified family members. It's also very important to consider the balance between the interests of family members who are involved in the business and those who are not. The third part, I think that is the wealth conservation. This family areas. Because I'm trying the third main point is for wealth preservation is sustainable growth of the business. So the family owners must be prepared to avoid all the business scenarios and all the cases to adopt accordingly. It rules directly to make additional diversification in businesses as well as to make research in new markets and new businesses. So for the last point, I'm sure that keeping in mind all these steps and what our colleagues mentioned, it will create a strong foundation for each family.
Don't leave it. Now I will start with you. Okay, guys. So, Mr. Ruzaya, proper estate planning is essential for wealth preservation across generations, as you mentioned. Now, globally, trusts play an important role in comprehensive estate plans as well. So, are trusts an instrument used in Turkey? What do you think?
From my point of view, Turkey is not so highly implemented this experience. It's rather rare here, but it's become more common as I felt in discussion with our colleagues and because it's some kind of new instrument in Turkey. Most of families are well open-minded and they understand also the pros of trust. It saves their accounts, saves their money, saves the estates, or planning even before available externally. That's why I'm sure that during the next years it will be much more implemented in this one.
Thank you. And Mr. Brenda?
Well, I don't think trusts are really utilized as efficiently as it does historically as the Western world do. In Turkey, it's a new thing, it's coming up, and it's highly regulated. But I want to go back a little bit and understand the trusts from their position of purpose, like how they establish, how they account them. I'm actually quite enthusiastic on this topic that I have studied a lot. If you look at historically, trusts are dominantly used in Ottoman Empire, and we call them vakıf, which is foundation. In Turkish popular culture, when you say foundation, all the time people's mind go to something that's for charity purposes, which is more like a foundation. But trust, from an Ottoman point of view, it's a collective partnership that is transferable from generation to generation. And there are very, very interesting foundation structures that actually exist in the Ottoman Empire. One of them that I'm quite fond of is called actually a gold trust. And technically, it just collects money from gold from people and lends to those who need, and it's technically functioning like a modern day bank, and it's like a trust structure that's controlled by some people, some of the wealthy individuals. And moreover, when from the transition part from the republic from the empire to the republic, if you look at the records of the Ottoman Empire, you could have seen 75% of the real estate, almost up to 75% of real estate, were registered under a foundation trust structure. So that was completely abolished. It went to the individuals. We still have a very big foundation trust structure, but what we lack over there is, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. We don't still have, from a Western perspective, a real robust trustee structure to be able to facilitate the growth of trusts. And the capital market is trying to come up with new teams and models that's going to be able to match the standards of the West, but I think we are far behind, and especially as a country that has so much heritage in this industry, it makes me sad to see that we still cannot facilitate. And what I see from the government perspective is they're trying to be very protective when they're introducing new things to the system. I'm one of the first people who established a real estate trust in Turkey, and that was a Sharia-compliant real estate trust. I couldn't explain to you, 10 years we had a fight to introduce the Turkish Title Deed Office, what is the trust, because they only recognize a company individually. So I think I see a will. The Turkish sophisticated individuals have a very good understanding of what trusts do from the global perspective, and a lot of our families actually control things through trust. Although their walls have been taken down as well, but I think still it's very strong. But I don't think Turkey domestically hasn't reached a level to be able to efficiently utilize the trust structures, but from an international perspective, locals know it, high net worth individuals know it very well, but I think there's still a large room for Turkey to grow in the trust side of things.
And Mr. Escher.
It's been a very interesting evolution of the trust history Ottoman Republic. I was not aware. It's correct that the current civil law jurisdiction of the concept of all equity as the basis for the international trust is not knowledge for international investors investing globally. We very often use trust structures or revocable trusts that are totally tax transparent and Turkish perspective to deal with the succession of potential demise of the father or mother, particularly also when it comes to second chain US children, foreign grant or trust. They offer a lot of tax planning and tax mitigation, and also simplifying the process of transferring wealth from one chain to the next. What a risk is very often is it's very popular to own assets through international business companies incorporated in jurisdictions such as the BVI. These are jurisdictions which have probate court, and we've seen during the pandemic people passing legal heirs being inheritor of significant standalone international companies, then things were blocked at banks, and BVI not accessible. Therefore, my recommendation is always when investors and families use international companies and structures and the succession maybe through the concept of foundation, trust, revocable, be aligned with the taxation in the country where founders, sector or beneficiaries decide to always be carefully considered. And when we look at the Istanbul Financial Center, I think when you are capable to be the first real estate trust, it might pay because this jurisdiction will attract foreign investments, and international investors want to govern succession without having to refer in the first case to a local court. That's also in Dubai, in the DIFC, Abu Dhabi Global Market, that for local investments, the government offers instruments to deal with the long-term succession, which is essentially preserving capital. And Turkey has proven in the past that you can incorporate elements of what it was into your own domestic law.
Now, Servet, I want to continue with you with my question. Turkish wealthy individual families invest abroad through a special proposal of companies, among other instruments. In structuring overseas companies, the Turkish Control Foreign Company Legislation is to be considered. Can you briefly explain what a CPC compliant company in this context means? Only your question this time.
Turkey has, back in 2006, introduced the concept of corporate income, legal tax law, concept of a CFC, controlled foreign company. What is a CFC? It is a foreign company that is with 50% or more controlled by Turkish taxpayers. If that company cumulatively only invests in passive investments, it's not an active trading company, 25% of its revenues are passive investments, it's not subject to an effective corporate income tax rate of 10%, and has gross income of greater than 100,000 Turkish lira, which is not a very big amount, then the Turkish tax office would say the profit of that foreign investment company needs to be added to the tax return of shareholder or incorporate consolidated at the parent company. If the company fulfills minimum taxation requirement, it functions as a full blocker, i.e., it only pays minimum tax outside Turkey. The Turkish tax office may not collect until profits are repatriated by virtue of dividends, taxes from the overseas investments. CFC structures and CFC compliant structures can help to mitigate or significantly defer taxes by enabling the family to actively manage the portfolio, which particularly in the last years with all the FX gains that need to be blocked in terms of devaluation Turkey to ensure stable returns.
Thank you. And Mr. Emila, now a different question. As in more than 100 countries, Turkey has introduced the automatic change of information in tax matters, CRS. What should wealthy individuals, families be aware of concerning the new CRS? Good question.
Well, I think that, again, I can speak about what we put in strategy with our families and our wealth that we're managing this. I think the world is completely transparent. You don't have those 80s, 90s, and 90s too far. Switzerland, where we go and put everything in there and come back, no one knows about it. Now, wealth is so connected, everything is on the internet. Thing that you hide today will not be hidden tomorrow. So we don't go with that strategy. Our recommendation and our strategy is be fully transparent, fully compliant, work within the structures of these mechanisms, build the right tax structure, work with the right people, and I think if you are working with the right people, if you have the right robust structure, the correct diversification, you shouldn't be worried about it. If you have things that you're trying to tear down, I mean, I have one family member that explained tax in a very nice metaphor that I always use. He says tax is like an important part of it, but tax is like an energy, and you cannot get rid of it. You can only convert it into an efficient form that's practical for you. So that's, I think, how it should be tackled. And going forward, it will be more and more difficult. I think more and more countries are going to join to that structure. And I think it's time, and it's already probably late. It's time that wealth looks at tax from a management perspective rather than a perspective of escape. So.
Thank you. And my last question to Mr. Zayed. A strong reporting governance is an important pillar in the wealth preservation strategies of the family. What criteria, in your view, contribute to robust reporting governance?
First, I think that it should be definitely organized by all the stakeholders who define the objects, the goals, and the way we are deploying them. Must be considered all the members' background, and purpose of the job. Create a perfectly written, sustainable plan for next generations. Even that it must be a daily change group. We must be prepared for everything that it must be through these all the changes makes all the market. So once some family will be able to organize, establish first this governance involving all the members, considering all the interests and matching all the aspects for each individual. Knowing the exit way and the goal for the right one, that the system will work perfectly.
Thank you. So we have talked about global wealth preservation and structuring. Thank you, Adrian Asher, Chairman of Henley from Switzerland. Thank you, Demirler, founder of European Capital Management. And thank you, Zaya, the Treasury Department in England. Thank you very much. Hello, welcome on board. So, yes. And by the way, good luck, Mr. Saracoğlu, for your new bank. So, Mrs. Soydan, let's start with the beautiful lady.
Thank you.
From the last few years, what are the key lessons learned from an investor perspective?
Well, actually, I would like to start with 2022 because it was an unexpected year for all of us, and the main theme was inflation and war on a global basis. And the inflation rate was so high, you know, it was scary. The S&P 500 indexes were declining, as well as the long treasury bonds, and it was a really critical time for all of us. So what we learned, if something hasn't happened, it doesn't mean that it won't happen. So before the diversification in portfolios, somehow, due to the recency bias, ceased to be important for us, the investors. But then we started to think more on it. So if we are on stocks and bonds, we should as well include the reinsurance, the private debts, and real estate, as well as the private equity and venture capitals. So I think that was the main lesson I learned throughout these 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask the same questions to you as well, Mr. Böfgren and Mr. Martinico and Mr. Saracoğlu.
So if we think about the past few years, I would say that there were at least 3 major things that happened. We had the corona, global pandemic, we had the inflation resurgence, and then we had the Ukraine-Russia situation. And all of them, for me at least, sadly tell us that the importance of national governments, politicians, and central banks is still huge. Their decisions, in many cases, not particularly organically or democratically driven, they had a huge impact on us as investors, as human beings. And it is all very well to sit and think about which company is better value, Nestle or Roche, but these considerations of what are the global politicians, the central banks, what are they going to do, that in many ways has a much, much larger impact on the investment returns. So I think you as an investment manager need to be able to try to analyze what are the global politics, what are the politicians going to do, because this will ultimately have a very large effect on your investment returns. And I think one of the key things that we have learned over the last few years is that when things look bleak, that is probably a very good time to invest. This has proven true over and over again. It is in fact one of the key aspects of Warren Buffett's investment strategy. When there is blood in the street, you buy. That is what he did during the financial crisis. He put $5 billion into Goldman Sachs on very favorable terms. He has done it over and over again. So when everyone else is panicking and not likely to buy, rather sell, then you go in and look for investment opportunities. And I think another thing that this has shown us is that we need to be better at expecting the unexpected. Tail events, such as what we've seen over the last few years, they happen more frequently than we tend to think. Thank you.
Yes, thank you too. Mr. Magnifico? Very good surname, by the way.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'd like to thank Henley&Partners and Chris for the opportunity to come to Istanbul and speak here today. That's a question that is probably a bit more complex than it appears. And at the end of the day, we live in a complex world, and we don't live in a complex world from yesterday or from a year ago. It's been a complex world for decades and for centuries. And I work with entrepreneurs. I invest in entrepreneurs. I once built up my company, sold that company, and now invest in entrepreneurs in the early stages like you do. The most difficult thing in the early stages when you're dealing with entrepreneurs is trying to understand or to filter out who are true entrepreneurs from those that are not, maybe cut to be an entrepreneur as much as they would like to think they are, which is fine, and it's really difficult to understand and to filter them out until they come across obstacles and difficulties. And that is something that an entrepreneur has to deal with every single day, every week, every month, every year of his entrepreneurial experience and building up their companies is dealing with difficulties and obstacles and the unexpected. And when you come across the unexpected, that's where you understand whether you're dealing with an entrepreneur or a true entrepreneur or not. And I think, this is, I've been taking notes all afternoon today, so many things that have been said. But yeah, I think that it's more an issue of, we've come from a period of many years of zero interest rates, and that means money is free money practically, and what do you do in an environment of free money? And then all of a sudden, we come across with a period of interest rates just smashing through the roof, and that means money is no longer free. And on top of that, we've got risky political situations, wars, and so many disruptions. And on top of that, we've been dealing with 20 years of business model disruptions with digital technologies that have just been tearing through everything we've known, all the legacy businesses. You talk to JP Morgan, you talk to Goldman Sachs, and you talk to these banks, and they declare themselves as being, we are a technology company. And what does that mean, that you're a technology company? From their point of view, it means that today the talents that they have to hire are data analysts, data scientists, software engineers. Yes, you also need to have people with finance background, etc., etc. But this is what we've been going through, and probably we will see a lot more disruption. We'll talk about this later, but impact of artificial intelligence. So
future is coming. So this
never stops.
unfortunately, Mrs. Rachel,
I again start with the pandemic issue actually. What I summarize is that right after pandemic, all the experience we collected for years and years, and all the ways of doing business just collapsed in just a very short period of time actually. You know, supply chain just collapsed, even global brands and global, for example, car makers could not even produce cars that they have just because of this pandemic. So all the experience we collected till today is changing very rapidly. The other hand, technology is more and more in our houses, in our way of doing business actually. So for the last few years, especially as from the Turkey side, many things changed from the perspective of investor, positive and negative actually. So now, for example, for our group, for itself, big deals or just one supply chain deal now is a problem, a risk for us. For a few years ago, we were not talking about these issues. Of course, Turkish environment, economic environment, European countries are completely different from each other. Turkish people, we somehow both get used to various fluctuations, inflation, exchange rates, and other things. But now, mainly all the world is experiencing the same thing actually. So, right after this point, it's not easy to get an investment easily, and maybe diversification is more and more that we have to focus on our desk just before make some investments. But as I said, people are changing their habits, companies are changing their habits, so a new era for all world economy is just coming to the years.
Thank you. And in addition, in Turkey, we had a great earthquake.
Yes, actually, it was a hard study of saying that these years were really unexpected things actually, on and on.
So, this is Soydan. Which type of investment strategies are better? Systematic or discretionary? Will all rule the investment world?
Still AI rule the investment world? Yeah. This is a tough question, and I worked on it, really. Because right now, under our wealth management company, we are working with high-frequency trading, and we are working with algorithmic tradings, and we are asking the very same question in our team for ourselves as well. When it comes to discretionary investment, there is this behavioral strategy you have to know, and you have to make fundamental analysis. You have to be experienced. You have to watch all the market trends all the time. But when it comes to systematic trading, then now you are handing yourself to a software, which is a black box actually. Some data scientists and engineers have built that black box, and somehow you are living in that black box, and you assume that it's going to perform really well throughout years. Actually, this is recent. AI and ML just started in the algorithmic trading, let's say, industry. And when it comes to data, if you compromise on data, there's a security problem, then this error, the systematic error, is going to amplify. So it's not that unrisky, it is risky. So for people who are aware of that, I think we have to go hybrid. I mean, we have to use both discretionary and maybe not fully systematic, but systematic trading, and we have to benefit from both sides. Of course, that would pull the AI world a little bit, how to say that, the AI is going to be trained longer, and it wouldn't take short, because the dynamics of the market is going to be a little bit more unpredicted. But still, for the sake of safety first rule, I think we should apply both trading methodologies. And as for AI, I think this is still a science fiction. I mean, is it going to rule the world? Maybe we're going to talk about it at 2050. But for today, it's like a baby, and it has to be trained. It has to be trained with smart minds. for the AI to make the right decisions. So we shouldn't avoid, we should be in this AI world, but I don't think that it's going to rule the investment environment for the next 50 years.
We have time. And Mr. Löfgren, will AI really affect the investment world?
Yeah, let's start with the systematic versus discretionary. So in our family office, we have been using and developing systematic strategies for over 20 years. So we are obviously very much in favor of using systematic strategies. They offer a nice framework to objectively assess whether something works or not. It removes a little bit the psychological pressure from the practical execution of the strategies. So when we can, when it's possible, we prefer to develop an investment idea into a systematic strategy. But since a couple of years, we have also realized that there are certainly fantastic investment opportunities that present themselves globally, which cannot really be made systematic. And the reason is that there are simply too few data points. If you want to develop a systematic strategy, you need first to have a long history or many data points to work with. For example, which investment strategy is going to be the optimal one when there is a global pandemic? You look in the history and there is nothing there, right? It's impossible. Which is the right trade to do when crude oil prices, WTI, reaches negative -30 in the US? Never happened before. I expect probably many data and price analysis programs probably crashed that day. The prices were not supposed to ever go negative, right? What we did on that day and around that time in our own family office was to take pretty large positions in oil stocks globally around the world, because we thought that, okay, this is a situation where things might actually get even worse from here, and we might lose some money initially on this trade, but at some point over the next couple of years, this is going to work out, because human beings will want to socialize, they will want to fly airplanes, they want to do tourism, they want to see other places. So at some point, we don't know how long it will take, and we might have to experience some volatility in the meantime, but we are prepared to do it because we're not doing leverage investments. We can live with the volatility. At some point, this is going to work out for us. And indeed, that is exactly what happened. And this is despite the fact that everyone was exceptionally bearish and exceptionally skeptical versus oil. Goldman Sachs came out with a report right around that time, essentially extrapolating and saying that oil, this is the end of fossil fuels, the end of oil. No positive signs at all. And of course, it's almost impossible to imagine a scenario which is more negative for energy, for oil, than when you have a massive total global lockdown that we have never previously seen. And those are situations which calls for a discretionary mindset. So I think this is why we do both. We try to systematize when it is possible, but we also recognize that there are situations which are so interesting that we want to take discretionary trades. And this leads us to the question of AI and whether an AI can possibly become the ideal investment management tool in the future. And I think that this can only be the case when the AI is so good that it can handle a novel situation that it has never previously seen, as was the case now with this pandemic. A human being can analyze the situation and try to make sense of it from other maybe similar situations, or knowing human psychology, trying to analyze global politics and human psychology. So until the AI is at that level, that it can effectively handle and analyze completely novel situations that it had not been trained on previously, I think it is safe to say that human investment managers will still be needed.
Thank you. And Mr. Magnifico? Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
You like this subject, I think.
I'm biased. It's what I do for a living now. So, I mean, systematic and discretionary trading, investment approach. I think, again, you cannot, as you mentioned as well before, it's impossible to think of a world where one lives without the other. So yes, we are living in a very technological age where everything has been digitalized and where we have algorithms, we have artificial intelligence, but there are so many black swan events, or so many. Some sort of black swan events that come across the horizon every now and then, and those are analogical events at the end of the day. You know, the COVID, the wars. Those are analogical events. They're not digital events. So they're not something that can be tracked by an algorithm as well as the discretionary approach. And you need that flexibility sometimes in order to be able to handle the unexpected analogical event. So systematic approach is totally necessary as far as I'm concerned. You need it because it's the only way you can handle vast amounts of data, especially if you're talking about publicly listed securities. So I don't know if there are any asset managers that don't use any form of systematic investment approaches, at least as a baseline. And then the discretionary approach, when you come across events that one doesn't normally come across. But, you know, when you think about, then I go back to entrepreneurship, and I think about my investment approach. When I look at early stage companies, I have to be very discretionary in the approach, and then adopt a systematic approach in the following stages, where I track as much data as I can about what the entrepreneurs and the businesses that they're running, how they're behaving and what they're doing. So I have to keep a systematic approach post-investment. But we're living in a world where things change fast, change very quickly. Artificial intelligence, I think, is here to stay. It will only, it's probably the biggest disruptive technology that we're going to be dealing with over the next, at least the next decade. And things that spring to mind in terms of how these sort of technologies, digital and artificial intelligence technologies have impacted us and will be impacting us even more. I keep thinking about this every day, especially after a conference at Vivatech in Paris last week, think about cars. I am a firm believer in autonomous driving. To be honest, I've always loved cars as a kid, growing up, fantastic, Ferrari, etc. But I think, we will be going in that direction, autonomous cars and autonomous driving. And that will be driven by artificial intelligence. It's interesting listening to people like Arnaud, Louis Vuitton, when you see they capitalize the market cap, LVMH. They capitalize market cap of LVMH today is about 430 billion euros. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. And it's quite interesting because Arnaud said, if I count the number of years since all the companies under the LVMH umbrella were born and add them up together, they add up to something like 8,000 years. So probably the oldest company is about 300 years or 350 years in the group, but adding them all up comes to something like 8,000 years. And LVMH is worth $430 billion euros today. And then someone comes along like Elon Musk and starts a company called Tesla 19 years ago, and the market cap is 800 billion euros. Okay, it's not the highest it's reached 1.2 trillion. some matter. But you know, that's how technology can really impact. And these are things that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to analyze as to, you know, where will we be tomorrow? I certainly do not have a crystal ball to be able to foresee that, but I have to try and get as close as I can as to where I think we will be going. If not, help those people and those entrepreneurs that are trying to build the future that we want to see tomorrow. So, you know,
So
absolutely.
tomorrow we will not be having the luxury beds.
I'm sorry?
We will not be having the luxury women's world in the future. That's very nice perspective.
I don't know, but still, these are things that you have to keep in mind. And so, you know, systematic approach is something that we will never be able to do without. However, the discretionary side of investment approaches is just as important.
Thank you. It was a very good answer, by the way. Yes, Mrs. Nigel.
When I was first starting my banking career 25 years ago, we were as the bank's workers, we were part of some indicators. We have thousands of branches, we have 25,000 people, we are everywhere, we can reach every town, every city, from Turkey to your bank, and get all the services immediately. Right after 25 years, now more than 90% of daily transaction of one of the biggest, for example, banks of Turkey, is done by phone. People are not attending to branches, do not have time to go to branches, wait for taking services. And in the past, for example, CEOs of banks were generally have the experience of treasury or credits. But now we are seeing people, CEOs from technology side. Now CEOs are becoming the CEOs of the banks and other financial institutions. So this is changing. The other hand, gender is changing. You know, now young people all life, everything, the way they live daily basis is very different than the X or Y generations. So AI is always will be in our life, every aspect of the life, coming from the mainly from the automotive sector, maybe more on the retail, we see some brands, but for example, in the past, for an ordinary credit allocation site, it takes 2 days, 3 days to approve credit applications. Now, no human touch, only data is getting to the system, it takes only 2 seconds to get the decision. And the experience showing that the decision taking by the systems using AI and machine learning side is more accurate and is more stronger than is done by human. So, in the future, AI and technology-based investments will be more and more that we should have to focus on actually. And whatever your sector, whatever your business, or whatever your needs, we have to accept to live with it and get everything that we can take from our daily lives and our business.
This is natural because you have a new bank and you are the new GM. I will ask the first question to you. If you could only choose one sector to buy and hold for the 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 weeks is so little. Which one would it be and why?
Actually, the last question and this is side by side. Technology and technology-based sectors, especially new companies, are my main focus. For example, yes, as group, we are now getting our license from the RSA, but just before getting preparation for the bank, we first set up our technology company with them. These are always get together and you cannot separate each other. So, not for the for 3 years, maybe more than 4 years, I always keep technology in front of my desk for investment.
Thank you. Mr. Magnifico?
Yeah, I mean, basically, more or less the same replies. It's certainly
No, don't say that.
well,
You can't look at
it's certainly the technology sector, and the two areas that I'm probably looking at most closely are the artificial intelligence area, because it touches everyone, everywhere. Just like the Internet of Things touches everything, everyone, everywhere. The connected car, the connected home, the connected office. I mean, we're connected with our smartphones, smartwatches, anything. I mean, it's incredible, and that is an enormous amount of data that is being produced, and that's a mine of information that can be used to develop new services. So, you have to be careful with legacy companies, meaning look at what they're doing in terms of new technologies. What are they doing to adapt to and adopt new technological innovations in order to stay relevant? Okay? How relevant will they be a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now? Because all of these new technological developments will have an enormous impact on all of these companies. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Joseph?
So, as we like to think of ourselves as contrarian investors, I will answer something completely different. I would probably choose the energy sector, meaning oil and gas companies, and also I would include the uranium producers, uranium miners, as part of the inevitable nuclear power revival, which is now finally happening. Also, interestingly, partly from as a consequence of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, people are realizing that energy security is actually a really, really important aspect. Without energy, all these fantastic technological improvements would obviously not be able to do very much. And I think we've seen that energy, I mean, governments certainly realize the importance of energy. And I think that for investors, it will also prove to be a good sector to be in. There are currently, I mean, the whole sector has been vilified over the last 10, 15 years, really. You've been hearing from politicians that they're essentially evil people doing their work, is extracting fossil fuels. They have been penalized by windfall profit taxes, whether the whole ESG phenomena, where actually large groups of investors and pension funds were not even able to invest into these companies. They were prohibited from buying energy stocks. We think this has led to a massive amount of underinvestment in the sector. And we think that this will now play out over the coming few years. There will be simply too little energy to go around. And also the further aspect is the geopolitical aspect. So I think we're moving into a multipolar world, in contrast to a unipolar world, where the US was a very dominating factor. I think as part of this, we're already seeing it now with the BRICS countries getting together. And we think that OPEC Plus will be able to control this. They have a joint, very strong interest, and we think that they will be able to, without too much effort, keep the oil prices relatively high. The oil companies are already now, certainly in Canada and many other places, they have a free cash flow yield of 30%, which means that they could actually buy themselves, they could privatize and buy themselves back in 3.5 to 4 years. And we don't see that this is realistic. It can continue for so long, exceptionally low valuations. And then you have the optionality for potentially much higher oil prices. But for my thesis to work out, we do not need higher oil prices than we are currently. So at $70 WTI, these companies are making 30% cash flow yield, and that is just too good to look over.
Thank you. And Mrs. Sorton?
Yes.
2 years.
I thought about this question in terms of an individual and an institution.
Oh, okay.
And definitely my answer is biotech. Because, when it comes to energy, we have too much legislations and we have to, just like you said, I mean, there are some conservative spots that we have. When it comes to biotech, we don't want to age, we don't want to die, and, we want to make new organs with 3D printers, and this DNA sequencing just, opens such a new area in today's world. And it's like blooming, and the thing
It's
is
like
that,
as if the whole world is trying to be a Switzerland altogether.
yeah. And the thing is that before it was like a binary, either you have the right decision for the right investment and it will explode, or you're gonna fail. But today, even though competition is really fierce, when it comes to biotechnology, there are many opportunities where we can just join the ride and we can, hold our money for a couple of years. I think that was the question. But I think I wouldn't go into technology with that's in a pre-seed or seed because it's a long journey when it comes to biotech. But it includes generative AI, and that is something really positive too. And one final thing I would like to tell you, because we talk too much about artificial intelligence. Mark Twain, I think, had a saying like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So when it comes to when we're talking about discretionary and how being systematic, I was thinking history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and artificial intelligence has to catch that rhyme to make a smart move. But after the artificial intelligence, would it still rhyme? I think is a good question. I mean, I was asking to myself when we were talking about the subject, and thank you so much.
Thank you. So, very impressive speeches today. Thank you very much for the Global Investment Management. Neydan Soydan, Boğaziçi Ventures Türkiye. Thank you. Pendon Özgen, Arnava Capital Switzerland. Thank you. Roberto Magnifico, L Venture Group, Italy. Thank you very much. And Mr. Arman Saracoğlu, Q Investment Bank Türkiye. Thank you very much. Questions? Did you have fun today? Did you like the meetings?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I have a strong Irish accent, so I have to speak a bit slower than some. Wonderful, very, very enjoyable. So my name is Kieran Keller. I just want to give you a quick overview of the company I work for, just to explain our credentials. I work for Savills, which is a truly global real estate advisory business. We're 170 years old. We have 40,000 people, 800 offices in 90 countries. And the powerhouse, what makes us so strong, is our research division, which consists of 200 real estate research analysts. So the amount of data which we have on where we are and where we're going is quite significant, but I'll be brief.
Thank you. So let's start with a question with you. What will define the global real estate market in the future?
So, the more, essentially, just going back to Dr. Christian this morning, he said to be honest, be truthful with your answers. The more I look at the research, the information, it's very clear that we are not well prepared for the future. Each generation has an unwritten social contract with an earlier generation. So in each generation, we are expected to pass the planet to young people like yourself in a better condition. Thank you very much. In a better condition in many ways. The issues which we're facing at the moment, be it interest rate rises, inflation, the impossibility for young people to get onto the property market, the uncertainty we have in the global situation, the rest of the wars. What's very interesting, during the 2007 financial crisis, the majority of the wealth moved to the older generation. So the truth of the matter is we've actually broken our generation, the social contract with the younger people in the world, because we are not prepared to give them what they're going to need for the future. If I might just very briefly just cover a few statistics, please. So, the first issue which is going to affect us tremendously is global demographics. At the moment, 55% of the world's population live in cities, 55%. By 2050, in 20-30 years, it will be 68%. Global cities take 2% of the land area, contribute 80% of the world's GDP, but also generate 70% of our carbon footprint. The positive news here is that Generation Z, those people born between 1997 and 2012, are today the largest group of citizens on the planet. I just want to repeat that. Generation Z are the largest group of citizens on the planet, which gives us great hope. As people of my age, we have given lip service to the issue of sustainability, global warming. But when the millennials and the Generation Z people come to power, which they will very soon, we will see that significant shift, which will be a climate in which the world needs so desperately, very quickly. Second issue is certainly climate resilient investments. We've done a study of 30 cities, and it's important. As I said, a lot of people don't believe in climate change, but we've had 5 times more severe climate events since 1970 than ever before. So a multiple of 5 times, in fact, severe climate crises are occurring. Cities will need to fortify, cities will need to prepare themselves for these severe climate events. In our research, which we're very glad to share with you, where we studied 30 cities, the main cities that are prepared for what we call day zero, it's Toronto, Berlin, and Paris. Mainly because of their geographical location, but also because of future plans they've made for such an event. The tragedy for the younger people at the moment is what we call urban affordability. The question is, how can we foster innovation and attract talent to our cities? According to the World Bank, 90% of all companies are small to medium enterprises. 90%. This 90% employs 50% of the world's workforce. These people need offices. Office rentals, Dubai, for instance, since 2019, has increased 25%. So it's very difficult for us to be able to find the right think tank locations to be able to bring people into these offices and to provide accommodation for people to work there. Let me give you a very simple example. In Hong Kong at the moment, 90% of their salary will go towards renting a one-bedroom apartment. 90%. In Lisbon, it's 50%. Today, the UK announced 6.1% interest rates on 2-year fixed mortgages. People can simply not get on the property ladder. It really is a shame. So how do we get the brains who are going to make the change to the future into these cities is a big question. We are in the age of aging. 40% of the global population is 50 and older. And this will demand a change of residences to provide what they want, which is quality of space, ease of ownership. This explains the rise of branded education. I'll finalize on, and there are so many topics, but on education. At the moment, there are 20 million foreign students studying around the world. By 2050, according to UNESCO, there will be 600 million students in third level education. Businesses want to be where brains are, but so this will provide a huge demand, and I'll leave that on a little bit later, for best-in-class office space and indeed for accommodation for students, which at the moment, I don't know about you, it's much easier to get my son into a university than into accommodation. I'm sure many of you have found the same thought. These are some of the events ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for the great, very, very, very interesting, some of them, especially the rents. So, I will go on, when it's real estate, I will go on first with Mr. Kabadayı. How do we define the global real estate market in the future and in Turkey as well? 2 questions to you.
Yeah. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much, first of all. And the first question is that what we would define in the global real estate market is that the desire of the pandemic has changed everything in our lives. Everybody is facing with that. Cost of living has increased, the inflation is increased. Most important part is that also the interest rates are soaring in all over the world. In developed or non-developed countries, we are facing the housing crisis, and housing, the residential, has become the most strongest investment in our world, and all reports is writing that this is the most promising and also prominent investment option that can be invested for the future. And what will be changing, of course, and some mentioned about the urbanization will be the most important significant design, and people will be moving in the urban areas. Technology is coming up, PropTech, home construction, PropTech, technologies are improving the cities, and smart cities are going, and people are going to be moving. Urbanization is growing very fast. And sustainability is one of the points that you mentioned also. And remote working is one of our lifestyle. People are working remotely, or hybrid working is some part of our lifestyle. Demographic changes becomes a very significant change in our life. The demographics are changing in a very fast way. Of course, affordability of housing prices is most important that I mentioned, because it's very people need commuting. And in general, there is an index in the States that they are calculating about the income with the rental. If it is less than 35%, it is affordable. If it is higher than the 35% of the annual income, the rental, then it gives stress to the people for living, and they have to be trying to be moving abroad. And the other things are the government policies. You know, in some countries, for example, in Canada, for example, last year they banned 2 years for foreigners to be buying, or some countries are bringing additional taxes for the second home of foreigners, and this is really affecting the future of the real estate. And also, investment trust is the most important point that will be affecting our life, because mobility has become the most important thing for us. With pandemic, everybody has faced big problems for mobility. And when you have been living, you couldn't even move. For example, for US citizens, you couldn't fly to Europe. For Europeans, they couldn't fly. For Turkey was an open area, and many people have been welcomed, and we have the comfort here living, and we will be able to be flying some destinations. But people have been facing these kind of problems, and they are now changing their minds, and especially ultra high net worth individual investors. They are thinking about the mobility, and they are planning to be investing in different sides of the world, and they are trying to be diversifying their living conditions and living locations. That's the most important change, and of course, climate change is the most effective change in our lives. At the end of the day, these are the major conditions and effects in our life, but the most important thing is that when you want to be investing or living in a location, you look at the political stability, that's important. You look at the lifestyle, that's one of the most important, and you look into the education system, healthcare system. These are the most important infrastructures of cities, and also the mobility of the transportation, the airports, connected cities, and Turkey has become one of the important, and I'm passing to the Turkey market. Please. That geographical location is very important for Turkey. In the pandemic now in Europe, our airport, Istanbul airport, is the busiest airport, and every month it's breaking records because it's one of the biggest airports in the world. And in the future, the expansion maybe it will be the biggest. And the connectivity and the geographical location is one of the most important. And the other one for the foreign investors is the real estate investment to be having citizenship or residency. This is one of the most strength of the Turkish real estate economy, that in today average 4 to 5% of the total sales it comes from the foreign investors. It's supposed to be maybe to 10% in the future. For example, in developed cities, in United Kingdom, we can compare Turkey to United Kingdom. In United Kingdom, 10% of the sales is bought by foreigners, but in Turkey it is only 4 to 5%. And we see that there is a huge way to go, and there is huge potential. And diverse economy and demographics is very important. The lifestyle, the healthcare system, the infrastructure system is very strong, that we can say. And economic challenge is, of course, a risk for the investors, inflation, currency, fluctuations, everything. But in average, in real estate, if you look at the back, the track records of the real estate in Turkey, every 4 or 5 years, all the investors make money, and all the capital appreciation is the most important pillar of the real estate economy in Turkey also. And of course, manufacturing, agriculture, and industry is very strong. For some kind of car manufacturing, also textile manufacturing, and construction material manufacturing. These are most important strengths of the Turkish economy. And also, nevertheless, also the tourism is one of the best beaches, one of the best destination cultures. More than 1,500 list of cities, old cities, and also the new generation is very important. 1/3 of the population is under 30 years old, and this is a very dynamic economy, and always it brings strength to the economy, and always the economy is resilient to all kinds of shocks. And we have been adapted to pandemic. Maybe Turkey was one of the open economies to all over the world, and also internally also life was ongoing. There have been many bans, maybe maximum 40 to 50 days, I think, bans out, and the other remaining people were having their lives, and this was the most important side of Turkey, that the resilient and agile economy and resilient and agile community that we have. And the lifestyle, I think you are here, and you will be enjoying Istanbul, and we have many magnificent cities, and the gastronomy is one of the important strengths of Turkey. And I can be counting many, and
yeah, you are not with that much.
I will be talking 30 minutes more. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Mansouri, the same question to you. What will define the global real estate market in the future? What is your thought?
Even after the pandemic, we think things change. We'll go back to basics. So going back 2-3 generations ago, the focus was when you make money, you buy a home. And then we diversified into estates and stocks and bonds and so on and so forth. I think the pandemic brought back the initial thought to us that buy a home. Because when we were stuck in it, couldn't go anywhere. That was it. That was your entire sphere. Given what we do as rich developers, as someone else initially mentioned, when the pandemic hit, they thought United States over, the energy prices and so on and so forth. Real estate for us is slightly different. The main driver of real estate for us is the citizenship, and therefore the mobility. And when the pandemic hit, there was a question. Are people want to go, do they want that? Do they want to do that mobility? Do they want to enjoy the benefits that we get from travel, or when do we even get to travel? Coming out of it, I think the global markets really dictated that
mobility is primary, wanting to move and the ability to move. Right now in Dubai, our workplace, the Schengen visas are valid for 2 months, 90 days. And going back home, that real estate citizenship and investment has become so much more popular for us since then.
Thank you. Mr. Kelleher, can you provide an overview of the transition of Montenegro, Turkey, Grenada onto the global stage as an investment destination?
Thank you. In Montenegro's confluence of 3 or 4 events occurred. There were many reasons. The main reason is actually centers around the citizenship by investment program. So 3 things happened. Firstly, the government of Montenegro, in their wisdom, introduced new law that allowed hoteliers, hotel operators to sell stock, to sell the hotel rooms. Because of occupancy issues in the region, many hoteliers were hesitant to come and deliver hotels. However, as soon as the option became available to sell from 50% to 100% of the stock of the rooms, on the precondition that the rooms would be leased back to the hotel and operated by a 5-star internationally or 4-star international brand for a certain 10 months of the year or more. All of a sudden, the industry changed. We had a huge influx of interest in building hotels. Then once again, the citizenship by investment program, which really was driven truly in Montenegro by Henley&Partners, was a wonderful success. The only downside was twofold. Firstly, the previous administration of government couldn't enact the steps required quickly enough to implement the system. So, and secondly, because of external reasons, probably from the EU or somewhere, Montenegro had to cease the program before the full 2,000 passports were allocated. I want to touch, I think it's quite pertinent to touch on citizenship by investment programs and what we saw in Montenegro. It's very important to understand citizenship by investment programs do not only bring financial benefit, but what's astounding what it brought to Montenegro is the intellectual capital. In this week's press, the Vice President of Google for Product Development publicly stated that he was fortunate enough to be awarded a Montenegrin passport. Can you imagine the quality of people who were bringing into Montenegro? The program in Montenegro, no program was ever administered so strictly. It's ironic that to obviously to obtain a passport, the due diligence is extreme. However, if I were lucky enough to marry a Montenegrin woman, I can get a passport in 3 years with no due diligence. So we're left scratching our heads how the government will possibly relate to the EU and leave 500 million euros on the table that would have been spent should the program have been continued. It's a little bit like standing in a bucket, trying to lift yourself. It's quite a challenge. But the CIP program absorbed all of the real estate stock which were in these mixed-use hotels. And all of a sudden, we have thousands of 5-star hotel rooms. We have changed the whole demographics and profile of the visitor to Montenegro. All because of government strategy to allow the sale of hotel stock, citizenship by investment program, which we really hope will find some way of starting again, and the arrival of branded residences, which is a wonderful product for people to be able to use the product at times while taking an investment yield through the course of time.
Thank you. Mrs. Mansouri, the same question to you too, please. Montenegro, Turkey, Grenada, on the the global stage? Is it a good investment point? What do you think?
Definitely a very good investment point. We've seen it grow in the past 12 years. When we initially started developing hotels in the Caribbean, we were pleasantly surprised because you have the donation option and you have the investment option. A lot of people said, why would somebody pay extra just to get an asset on the other side of the world, which they may or may not use. But we were pleasantly surprised to launch our fourth development in the Caribbean today, with the first 3 sold out and 2 of them delivered, where we realized that requirement for citizenship is there, it's quite strong, especially if you have a certain nationality where you discriminate against. Combine that with branded real estate, and it's music to a lot of ears. You see that over and over again. We've helped over 6,500 families obtain second citizenship for themselves and their family members. And here it's quite important to mention that a lot of people ask us about capital gains. So, I invest, I get my passport, what happens to my money? As mentioned earlier, the main driver of the conversation is always citizenship. They allow you to exit 5 years later, whereas the second buyer also gets citizenship. So this transfer of assets is also comes with the advantage of citizenship, where the initial buyer got into it in the first place. Capital gains, to be honest with you, hotel investments in the Caribbean are stable, but they're quite boring. So we've seen returns between 2 to 4%, which is comfortable enough, but again, it's not the main driver of the conversation. The main driver of the conversation is citizenship. And now with the Park Hyatt, Intercontinental, the Six Senses, and now another Intercontinental in Granada, we see this market very strong, we see it coming on, and unless tomorrow we'll wake up and the world decides to love each other and open its borders, which is highly unlikely, the demand for citizenship by investment will remain.
Thank you. Mr. Kavadayan, I will not ask about the counter question to you because I know your answer. So I will skip to the other one. What are the most attractive markets in terms of real estate investment in the next decade, you think? Turkey.
Of course, Turkey is always top. As a framework, of course, first of all, let's be identifying what will be the future demand. After pandemic, as always we are discussing, mobility has become the most important thing in our lives. And investors, and there are some reports that investors are looking for more kind of investment opportunities. First one is that capital appreciation is one of the most important things. Second one is the capital preservation. Third one is income generating assets. And fourth one is the citizenship or investment. Investors are looking for these 4 topics, and they are seeking for opportunities all over the world. And wealthy people and the talented people are looking for today. They are seeking for some areas to be living, to be having fun, and to be doing their work. Nomads, digital nomads is becoming a reality, and with the next generation, for the decade, maybe it will be much more important in our lives. And also, shared economy is becoming one of the most important things in our life, in residential or other kind of office spaces or other kind of investments that shared economy is becoming very important. For the next decade, so that people will be moving on the move. They will not be committed to any location, so that the countries who are giving them the best benefits in life and work balance, security, tax advantages, and also infrastructure, everything will be the selected ones. And also the easy business opening locations, and also for the residents and the banking system. When you move a city country, the most important thing is to open a bank account, and always it becomes a big problem for many investors. And which countries are agile, which countries are much more proactive in this kind of problems, they will be passing the others for the futures. And of course, governments trying to be capturing this kind of data and wealthy people. And With all of this, I mean, we can say one topic that we have to be widening our horizons for the investors all over the world. We are developing in Turkey and we have been developing more than 2 million square meters, mostly residential, we focus on residential. Now we are expanding our business to Europe and States in a couple of months, and we are trying to be attracting the international investors. And with Henley&Partners also, this kind of organization, this kind of networks, it is very important to be marketing and promoting abroad. In domestic market, we are one of the biggest significant developers and well-known developers in this market. But we have to be trying to be inbound and outbound customers from all over the world. We have been working with Henley&Partners for 2.5 years, and we have a very successful, we created a very successful track record together with them, and we are trying to be improving the business together. With all kinds of opportunities that collaborative business partners and also promoting the products with the technology, with the sustainability, with the ESG services, that is one of the most important and significant differentiation from the other developers' properties or locations, and which companies will be much more strong in this kind of areas, they will be going forward than the others, and will be connected to the whole over the world. And digitalizing is the most important thing for the buying, and of course always we have to be seeking for, and we have to be targeting for happy customers, and we have to be doing their business in the most way. In the future, as I mentioned, I'm trying to be looking that I missed anything that was important thing that you guys mentioned, all of them. And also there are some, and the last thing that I can be mentioning, that there are becoming regional centers. In all areas, there are some regional centers, and they are becoming very significant locations. From west to east, we can be counting about New York, Miami, London, Paris, then Istanbul, Dubai, Singapore, and all these locations are vibrant cities, high population cities. The domestic demand is, except Dubai, we can say the domestic demand is very strong in this kind of areas. The most important thing in real estate will be the point that if the domestic demand is strong, then the variation of the property will never be going down. Always we are facing some kind of crisis every 5 years, 10 years, 7 years. We had the 2001 crisis, 2008 crisis, COVID crisis, Russia-Ukraine crisis. There are always crises are coming with the world, and regional crises coming, and the resilient countries, and where the domestic demand, always the market keeps resilient. And for the future, I believe that residential will be one of the most significant investment option for all kinds of investors.
Perfect, thank you. So, Mrs. Mansouri, the same question to you, please. What are the most attractive markets in terms of real estate investment in the next decade?
Given that we're based out in Dubai, I have to say Dubai is perhaps most attractive. We have seen the country grow phenomenally over the past 30 to 50 years. When I initially moved there as a child, it was a very small city, and for those of you who moved to Dubai, Trade Center was the end of the city. So when you pass Trade Center, and someone would ask you where you are on the phone, you can say, I'm on the Dubai Abu Highway. Today, the Trade Center is in the middle of the city. And in terms of luxury real estate, we've seen Dubai grow exponentially. There is scarcity because in the middle average class, yes, we have plentiful development up and coming, but in terms of luxury real estate, it's quite, it's a smaller market than you would think in terms of stock, in terms of availability. It's a lot smaller than people think it would be, because certain areas, and it's Hillsborough area where are a little bit more, and that's about it. And now with the high net worth individuals moving to Dubai ever so quickly, I think you see on the news with the rate of business and so on and so forth, 420 million dirham properties being sold. I mean, that was unheard of. Someone said that to us, living in Dubai seems equal 2 years ago. No. When a partner has 420 million dirhams, we see it. We see it quite often more than not. What's really taking precedence in the market is branded real estate. Because people come to Dubai, they want to see that lifestyle, they want to experience that lifestyle. So the one Rochester, Bakar coming up with the IFC, the branded real estate living the Dubai lifestyle seems to be very, very important.
Great answer, too. Mr. Kelleher, any statistics about that too?
Absolutely. So we just completed a study of 13 major markets and to look at the shortfall to satisfy accommodation requirements in the next 10 years. And here are the numbers, as you would expect. So in these 13 markets, we need 17 million care home beds. We need 18 million purpose-built student accommodation units. We need 110,000 megawatts of data centers. And all of this adds up to approximately 1.2 billion square meters of real estate. All good investments, and of course, all are unaffected by business cycles, so that's quite interesting. I just want to touch on two other quite interesting investment opportunities. One is certainly branded residences. Branded residences are growing, exploding throughout the world. To get in and purchase a branded residence from a reputable developer at an early stage, it's branded by a really good 5-star hotel, could be a wonderful investment. And finally, for me, nothing in the world of real estate is as good as art. We just announced last Friday that we have launched exclusively onto the market a once-in-a-millennium opportunity. We are selling a complete uninhabited island, 22 hectares just off the coast of Dubrovnik, freehold ownership. So once in a millennium, 22 hectares, 2.6 kilometers of coastline, complete privacy, and be a wonderful investment that will grow for years to come. So,
thank you. So,
may I just say, sorry, for any of the information which I mentioned in Parliament, please log on to www.savils.com/research, and you can download our latest insight report, which only came out last week, covers the future of real estate.
Perfect, thank you very much. Thank you. So, we had the Global Real Estate Panel with Karen Kelleher, CEO of Servet Croatia and Montenegro, thank you. Mariam Mansouri, BDD of Range Developments UAE and Caribbean, thank you. And Inanç Kabadayı, Chairman of Ege Yapı, Turkey, thank you very much.